Play it by ear.
Welcome, everyone, back and forth with Becker and Orr. We have another great topic, a whole slew of topics. You can see them at the bottom of the screen there, including the January Trifecta. What is it? What does it mean for the markets? Why is it positive? We'll get into all of that. You definitely want to stick around.
Yes, we have wide-ranging topics today. We're going to be talking on everything from Jets, Trifecta, what the rates have done, and everything else along that line. Again, if you want to find more back and forth financial 15s or anything for us, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Really simple. Click the button. Lots of great content there. You'll love every minute of it. Also, if you like us on Facebook. And most importantly, please visit our website, beckerorr.com. There are blogs. There's events coming up. There's a whole bunch of information there that's really important for the financial world for you. But today we are dealing with the back and forth scenario, and we're starting with the trifecta. And we're not talking horse racing, are we?
No, we're not talking horse racing. I mean, I don't put too much stock in this kind of stuff. It's a little bit of seasonality data, but it is certainly a bullish attribute and can get us talking about the overall market. So let's just pull it up here, the January Trifecta. You have a few of these kind of technical items here. One is the Santa Claus rally, which is the last 5 trading days of the prior year with the first 2 trading days of the new year. That one alone, if that time period is positive, the rest of the year, 71% of the time is also positive. So that's not really a great stat. The first 5 trading days of January, if that's positive, 83% of the time, the rest of the year follows. January barometer, the old adage is the year goes as January goes. So if January is up, the rest of the year is up. That's actually true 83% of the time. But then the trifecta, Kevin, this is it. If all of those hit, Santa Claus rally is positive, first 5 days positive, January positive. Every time that has happened, the S&P 500 has been up for the entire year. So that's a pretty good stat.
It is.
Now, I mean, it completely ignores the whole economic situation. It's just solely a technical number there, but a positive place to start for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that you don't see too often, right? I mean, and that's the thing to kick with it. You don't get all 3 of those every single year so that you're up 100% of the time. And again, each market situation is a little different. But, having that sort of a scenario there does make you give a little bit of comfort in the fact that, if you're starting the year off on the right foot and things look like they're going to be getting better, in this case, we probably are with rates slowing down and stuff along those lines, you can buy into a lot of what's going on with those trifecta numbers. And you're starting to see that if you've had a really bad year the year before, people start to say, okay, well, if the worst is behind us, let's start getting back in. So, yeah, I mean, it is a number that you have to take with a little bit of assumption as to the way things are going on. But it is nice to see something along those lines, at least for the start of this year. And let's hope that trend continues because we've hit the first 3 for 2023.
Yeah, I mean, the trifecta itself, I'd lump that in with seasonality data, and it's certainly on the list of things you look at, but maybe not top of the list. You need to have a few other items prior to that. But some of the positive markets elements, the breadth has definitely been improving. The number of stocks simply going up versus the ones going down is definitely tilted to the bullish side. S&P 500, Canadian market also above the long-term downtrend line that we had throughout last year. So we do see a bit of positive momentum there. So certainly a few things that would be reflective. Those items are probably kind of captured in the trifecta. So less that the trifecta is the cause and more or less the symptom of some positive bullish behavior, just kind of happens that way. But certainly a good way to start the year. Not the best way to start the year in the sports world, Kevin. As a Jets fan, it was a phenomenal start to the season, but they get into 2023, the last couple of games, not the best.
Yeah, I would say probably the last 8 to 12 games, the Jets have had sort of an up and down scenario. And traditionally, this is what you're going to go through. I mean, they had a really good start. They were playing a really sound foundation. But when you're playing sort of 31 games in 60 days, it's going to take its toll. I don't care who it is or who it isn't, but that was a tough schedule. And of course, over the last 8 before they came on their homestand, they played 5 and 8 days away and they were traveling all over the place. So I will take some of that, but I mean, they're well-conditioned athletes, and I don't think that we're in any serious trouble, but it is something that you have to monitor. Old habits creep in and everything along those lines. We've now hit the All-Star break, so there's a bit of a rest, chances for people to get healthy, a little bit more or rest going forward. And I do think that we've got, a strong contention to be one of the teams that is going to compete from the Central Division this year in the playoffs, just the way things are going.
I had rapid fire questions here for on the Jets. 3 quick ones that's on the top of everyone's mind. We're in the All-Star break, like you said, kind of a lackluster entry into the All-Star break. Do the Jets make the playoffs?
Yes. I would say you've got a 95% chance, but yes.
Cool. Those are some good odds. Do they win the division?
That one I'm not as convinced with. I think with the resurgence of Colorado and the fact that Dallas hasn't really slipped yet, I would say that I'm going to say top 2, but I don't know that we win the division.
Gotcha. And then the big question here, do you think they have a shot at the Cup this year?
Actually, because the West is so wide open this year, I do. I mean, if they were in the East Division, getting through Boston, Toronto, Tampa Bay may be a hard part, but in the West, it's wide open. So, yes, we definitely have a chance to be the representative in the Stanley Cup from the West, and I would love to see that. First time ever would be great.
There you go. Jets predictions. Let's move on back to the market here at our interest rates. This has been the big story last week and this week. Last week was the Bank of Canada. This week, the Federal Reserve. Interest rates, central banks essentially hitting the pause button. What's your take there, Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's come to the point where, again, you really don't know until, 6 months or 8 months later what all these rate hikes are going to do and how fast it's going to slow the economy. So I think the fact that inflation was as high as it was and kept creeping up and up to June. But again, let's remember sort of March was when we started and we kept going 7 straight rate hikes. June up until now, inflation has come down every single month. So we've seen that this has been having an effect, but have we been raising too fast, too far? I think now that they're going to look at it, they're going to see what the data looks like on job numbers and everything else. So I think stepping to the side and being a pause is a smart move. They're not saying, no, we can't continue to hike, but they're saying, you know what, I think we may have done enough right now. We don't want to overkill things and go to 5 or 5.5 and then find out that we're going to do real damage to the economy. So it's probably not a bad move to start to take a pause at the moment.
Yeah, it's hard to believe they just started in March because really we only had 9-10 months of rate hikes. Given the amount of space they covered, they went from essentially nothing to 4.5% for the overnight rate in a very short period of time. So the pause button makes some sense. Bond yields, because the bond market and central banks don't always move in sync. Bond yields kind of peaked end of last year for the most part, and have already started to roll over, kind of anticipating this event. Some folks say the rates are going to be cut by the end of the year. I'm not convinced you'll see cuts in 2023, maybe, but you need to see some pretty big economic damage before they start cutting rates. I think more likely is they just kind of sit on the sidelines for a period of time, and then maybe rates start to ease a little bit into 2024. What are your thoughts there on the rate cuts?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same sort of scenario, right? How fast are we going to see recessionary numbers come? And you reported out somewhat this morning that, we're still sitting there and job numbers are still continuing to grow in the U.S. So, I mean, yeah, it may be slowing a little bit economically. We're not spending quite as much, but you haven't really seen that sort of flush where maybe we're getting that soft landing. And if we do, you're right. I don't see that there's going to be that need to cut by the end of the year. We're probably looking into 2024. I mean, I know the pundits are predicting that, yeah, we're going to get rate cuts before the end of the year, but things can change month to month without a problem.
Yeah, unless we see a big economic recession, I don't think they touch rates. No. Cut rates, I should say. I don't think they'll cut rates. But the other big story, at least of the last couple of months here, I'll pull this up for you, Kevin, was Avatar, Way of the Water. I've not seen that movie. I don't want to sit there for 3.5 hours or whatever length of time that movie is. But James Cameron, all over the top 5 here when it comes to highest grossing films. Avatar, Titanic, and now Avatar 2, Way of the Water is number 5 on that all-time list with over $2 billion. Remember when movie theaters were supposed to be dead because of the pandemic?
I know.
And now you can see on that all-time list a couple of them. Actually, I'll pull it back up. You can see Avatar, Spider-Man, Top Gun Maverick, all recent movies, all on the top grossing films of all time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I have sat through the 3.5 hours of Avatar Way to the Water. That's time I can't get back in my life again. But I as an Avatar fan, I've seen the movie once, and I think I'm done with that sort of scenario. You either really into the big blue people or, it's sort of a let's see it because it's a great spectacle on the big screen. And I think that's the main reason for this. Seeing this on the big screen is definitely the place you have to see it. It's completely different there than anywhere else, and I really enjoyed what they put out there. But again, it's the same sort of scenario. Are we going to see more of this? I think you will see more of some of these movies, depending on what the releases are. There's big names coming out now again. I mean, you've got the John Wick sort of scenarios and things. None of those, I think, hit the $2 billion mark.
No.
But again, it seems anything that James Cameron puts his name to is going to do it again. So, I mean, as you mentioned, he's got 3 of the top 6, and only the fact that only 6 of them have ever topped $2 billion. But I think the more interesting part is that if you look at one of the actors, Joey Zaladana, has been in 4 of the top 6 between the Avengers as well as the Avatar franchise. So
she's in Avengers. She's in Avatar. She plays Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it's Gamora is her character there. And then she's also in the Avatar movie. So she's been in the big franchises for sure. The highest grossing actress of all time there.
I think anything she touches with these people, I want a piece of the pie. Don't pay me a salary. I'd rather have some of the box office receipts. Gonna make more money that way.
There you go. Well, we get lots of questions every week, and we certainly appreciate the questions. This is one that's been more current as it relates to the theme of interest rates. This is one that came up just the other day for me. GICs are renewing, so to be clear, we're not saying go sell stocks to buy GICs. I would not encourage that. But if you already had a GIC and it comes due, should you go for another 1 year? Do you go 5 years? What's the thoughts there for the term now that rates are starting to level out?
Well, I think it's going to depend on two factors, and it always has. I mean, what is your time frame? Are we looking at something that you're putting away for, I need the money a year or two down the road? Then yeah, you go short term, you go with the year. But if this is sort of your retirement plan and you're looking at it, for another 20 or 30 years, I don't think going the longer term right now is going to be a problem. I think actually taking 4 and 5 years might be a really smart move because, again, over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen no rates whatsoever. Now that we've had a huge rate jump, as we just mentioned, you already got pundits talking about rate cuts possibly coming by the end of this year. Well, if they continue to come through this year and then start rate cutting again in 2024, all of a sudden, if you got something coming due a year or two from now, those longer term rates or short term rates may be less than what you can get from a 4 to 5 year term right now.
Yeah, the idea is we could be nearing a peak in the rates. I think we have seen a peak in the rates, which means that's normally a good time to lock in the current levels. Because in 4 or 5 years from now, we could be much lower than we are today. So that's the possibility. Because up until now, the 1 year made a lot of sense, the short term, because rates just kept going up. So why not do short term and then renews get an even higher rate? Now you might not get that. In fact, you could get the same, if not lower. So if you already had a GIC, it comes due. If it fits your time horizon and it makes sense, then a longer term should be considered. We appreciate the questions, though. And if you have more questions, where should folks go, Kevin?
Folks should go to chatwithclintonandkevin.com. If you want to know anything about anything we've talked about today, we will talk hockey and Avatar. We will also deal with the trifecta and dealing with GIC rates for you. But yeah, any sort of your financial questions or anything else, please contact us. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to be able to talk to you on any of these sort of scenarios. But other than that, I think we've covered a variety of topics today, and we will be back again with more back and forth coming in the future. But for today, I think that's all we have to deal with.
Sounds good. We'll leave it there. Take care, folks.